Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another episode of Lightspeed. Bringing you Star Wars news and headlines in under 15 minutes, this is Lightspeed issue number 30 in the style of advanced newspapers and comic book issues. There's no reason to go back and listen to all the other ones, but hey, if you do, that helps us out a lot. Gets us the download and whatever else. But if you really want to help us out, share this show with a friend so that they can get their Star Wars download of information for this month. And we got so much to talk about because New York Comic-Con just happened. We had a slew of news come in. We've hit the end of Ahsoka, so many things. So let's just dive right in. Knights of the Old Republic remake, is it canceled? That we had news surface that this particular project has been put on hold or shelved or what now. Nobody knows what's actually going on, so maybe take a look into it for yourself. I don't want to give you false information, but there's a good chance that maybe that new next-gen PlayStation 5 Knights of the Old Republic remake might not see the light of day. And speaking of KOTOR, the original Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, adaptation to the Nintendo Switch version is no longer happening, and the team behind this project put out a special message for their fans, and here it is. We'd like to thank all the KOTOR community for their immense passion and support for the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic series. That passion allowed us to bring this timeless series to the Nintendo Switch, and we are forever grateful. Sadly, today we are announcing that the restored content DLC for the Nintendo Switch version of the Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, will not be moving forward for release. We'd like to thank everyone for their continued support by providing a complimentary video game key to the players that purchased Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords on Nintendo Switch before this announcement. Players may pick a replacement key from the following list: Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords on Steam, or Knights of the Old Republic on Nintendo Switch, The Force Unleashed on Nintendo Switch, Republic Commando on Nintendo Switch, Episode 1 Racer on Nintendo Switch, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy on Nintendo Switch, or Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast on Nintendo Switch. To receive your complimentary key, please visit support.aspire.com and submit a request with your Nintendo Switch proof of purchase attached from the Aspire team. So there you go. Sorry to any fans of KOTOR and people who are looking forward to playing the sequel on Nintendo Switch, but you can still play it on computer, or if you go into an old video game store, you might find it on PC CD-ROM. But thanks to the lovely power of digital games these days, you can pick up a virtual copy on Steam, and if you had pre-ordered it, like they said, you can snag it for free, or well, technically you already paid for it, I guess, but what can you do? Galactic Starcruiser's last voyage happened. Whether it's a Star Wars saturated experience or not, unfortunately, the Halcyon Legacy is being decommissioned. And what is going to happen with that experience or that entire facility that they've built, which is basically a giant Star Wars hotel, we will never know. And perhaps in the future, maybe they could turn it into a ride, or perhaps maybe in the future they'll reevaluate and lower their costs and make it a more accessible thing for any of us who did not get a chance to attend Galactic Starcruiser. I guess we'll just have to reminisce over other people's photos in the future. Tales of Light and Life recently hit shelves, which is a novel filled with short stories taking place in the High Republic era in the first phase or so. And for those of you who are looking to dive into the High Republic a little bit more, look for the book called Tales of Light and Life, which is now on shelves. Star Wars Insider, The High Republic Tales of Enlightenment is also available, and this is a hardcover book written by George Mann. You can pick it up for about $26, and it is a Phase 2 book, which you can pick up, and it is a hardcover collection of all of the High Republic stories from the pages of Star Wars Insider. So for those of you who don't read or buy the monthly Star Wars Insider magazine, there is usually been a short story in almost every single Insider since the beginning of time. And since the whole Disney canonization thing, a lot of those short stories have actually sort of mattered in a little way, whatsoever. They're kept very small and small scale, low stakes. They're not super essential to read or anything like that, but they've been fun. And of course, with the whole High Republic initiative going on, a lot of these short stories have been taking place in the High Republic. So it's nice that they've kind of extracted that content and put it into a book or something that, you can actually kind of get your hands on without having to buy like 10 different insider magazines. Because magazines, once they're gone off the shelf, they can be a little hard to find. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking to pick up the short stories, I believe there's 6 in this collected book called Star Wars: The High Republic, Tales of Enlightenment. Ahsoka has ended, and with it, our after show has as well. We have a total of 9 or 8 different episodes, I guess, going over every single episode in the Ahsoka series. The first one consisting of the first 2, and then 1 every week after, leading up to part 8. And most recently, we dropped a series look-back review where a couple of us on the show just chatted about just the show and what we liked, what we didn't like, some overview and things looking back, what really worked for us, what we missed out on, what we think is going to happen in the future, and so much more. So make sure you go check that out. And if you haven't listened to any of our Ahsoka after shows on a weekly basis, and you just want to kind of skip to the end and get our general thoughts and ideas for it, maybe check that one out. It's the most recent episode that you can catch on Star Wars Escape Pod. Also, for those fans of you who are out there looking for Rebels Talk episodes, you can find a playlist of our culminated, finished Rebels Talk series on Spotify and YouTube. These are after shows dedicated to Star Wars Rebels, where we go through the show chronologically from the beginning all the way through the end. There are 20 Rebels Talk episodes. So if you are planning to go through Star Wars Rebels at any point in time, make sure you keep that in mind. Maybe save it to your bookmarks, do whatever you want. They are awesome. Myself and Blake, carefully kind of went through the series a couple episodes at a time. Make sure you check the description of every single podcast episode in that series to see which episodes we're reviewing. And you can stay ahead of us by a couple episodes. So, if you're a big binger, it works, right? Because you can just kind of binge a couple episodes at a time. And, we do them in groups of 4 or 5 or whatever. So maybe keep that in mind, if you want to dive into Rebels a little bit more, peel back the curtain, maybe check out Rebels Talk Part 1 and go through. And, if you're just wanting to kind of skip to the end and you maybe you've seen the show already and, it's been a while and you've just recently watched Ahsoka and you want some of those connections, we did overlap Rebels Talk with Ahsoka a little bit. So maybe just check out the last 2 or 3 of Rebels Talk Part 18, 19, 20. Something like that. You'll get a lot more in depth with the character Ezra Bridger and Sabine and Hera and Zeb and Kanan and Jarrus and so much more. So maybe check those out because we had a really good time doing that, and we hope you guys have enjoyed it. Gareth Edwards sets the record straight on Rogue One. The very last thing that we filmed in the pickup shoot, he says, was the Darth Vader corridor scene. Edwards said of the signature scene at the end of the film, he says, "I did all that stuff." So just thought I'd throw it out there. The Hollywood Reporter is going on about this particular thing, only because a lot of people speculated that it actually wasn't him doing that last Darth Vader thing. A lot of people thought it was Tony Gilroy and that Gareth Edwards was sidelined and this and that. So this is Gareth Edwards setting the record straight. There's a lot of inaccuracy spreading out there, and Tony Gilroy was involved, but it was not to sideline Gareth Edwards. Gareth Edwards remained the director of the film all the way through the end, and he was there for all that Darth Vader stuff as well. So, just so you know. Rise of the Red Blade. We recently read this novel, and you can expect a full novel review in the next week or 2. We plan to do that very, very soon. This is a novel that dropped earlier this year and was featuring the 13th sister, I believe her name is Iskat Akaris, and the red-skinned alien woman who shows up on the cover. And she is one of the Inquisitors that you see in the Darth Vader comic book series, which this novel has fleshed out and adapted, and it covers the span of the Clone Wars, her journey as a Jedi, and her rise as an Inquisitor. So that's been a very interesting book to read. I just finished it last night, and I look forward to talking about it extensively with Blake and AJ on the podcast when we get around to doing that very, very soon. Finally, New York Comic Con 2023 has 13 highlights from the Lucasfilm Publishing Panel, which is crazy. So those of you who are really into Star Wars literature, whether it be comic books or novels or whatever else, you can look forward to these things. Mace Windu, the party is just getting started with a Star Wars Mace Windu. He's getting his own Marvel miniseries, which is super exciting, in January.
This party's over.
That's right. And just in time to celebrate the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace. So that is crazy. Big anniversary next year for The Phantom Menace. The series was written by Mark Bernardin and was announced along with the cover, which I assume is the first issue. It's got Mace Windu, a young Mace Windu, on the cover, looking very ferociously at our faces. Another highlight character getting his own miniseries is Jango Fett, with the writer behind the Bounty Hunter series coming up to the plate, which was recently revealed to soon come to an end and will helm the Marvel miniseries that debuts in March. So you can look forward to Star Wars Jango Fett in March by Ethan Sachs. Thrawn Alliances is the next novel finally to be adapted into a comic book form. And we are really looking forward to this because the original Thrawn novel came out a while ago and the adaptation came out in 2018. So it's been a hot minute since Thrawn has seen the cover of Marvel Comics, and the second book in his original trilogy in the canon, that is. So Timothy Zahn's second Thrawn trilogy, technically, is now finally getting its sequel adapted into the comic book series. So a lot of people who like those Marvel adaptations are going to look forward to Thrawn Alliances in adapted form. Timothy Zahn, Jody Hauser debuts in January with this stunning cover by Rod Rees, and you can look forward to more Thrawn very, very soon. Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, two different Dark Horse original graphic novels, are hitting shelves at some point in the next couple months, I would assume. These are highlight things from Dark Horse, which is, they've been prominently putting out hyperspace stories, issues week by week, called Hyperspace Stories, and I guess it looks like they're doing some graphic novels for Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, which is really awesome. With the start of Phase 3 of the High Republic, the Trials of the Jedi are just beginning. The covers of Shadows of Starlight, issue number 4, and the High Republic issue number 3 were revealed, first written by Charles Soule. Features a bunch of cool stuff on the cover, and both issues arrive in January. The High Republic Adventures by Dark Horse is continuing as well, with the issue number 3 cover featuring a lot of awesome looking stuff. And you can see all these, by the way, in the link description. I've got it in the description below, the link that is. So that issue will debut in February, and the ongoing series is written by Daniel Jose Older. If you liked the Star Wars Lightsaber Collection book, you can look forward to Star Wars The High Republic, the Lightsaber Collection, which is a book culminating all of the High Republic's finest lightsabers in a nice gallery, horizontal format hardcover book by Insight Editions, and lots of full-color illustrations, each weapon with portraits and who carried them, and so on and so forth. So it's another resource book to add to your library, but looks awesome. And you can get your hands on the actual Stellan Geo's High Republic lightsaber at Shop Disney and Disney Parks later this year. There's only going to be 5,000 of them crafted globally and will be sold on Disney Parks, shopdisney.com, Walt Disney World Resort, and that's pretty much it. So for those of you who do want the lightsaber but are not willing to pay the extraordinary amount of money for a lightsaber that is probably one of 5,000, make sure you look on third-party markets for like Alki lightsabers, for example. And most likely this lightsaber will come to the third-party saber market as well at some point because it's a fan favorite. Return of the Jedi, the visual archive, is celebrating the visuals of the film Make Like an Ewok and celebrate the film that turned 40 years this year, with the visual archive debuting in March. And I'm not entirely sure what that's all about, but hey, it looks interesting. Star Wars Dad Jokes Okay, if you're into dad jokes, there's a book coming out at some point with hilarious dad style, very cheesy jokes, Star Wars oriented. So that's another thing. We got a glimpse at Dark Horse's Tales from the Death Star. So they put out a bunch of Tales from, and looks like the Death Star is getting its own highlight comic as well. The High Republic fans are being well fed with the pages of DK's Star Wars The High Republic Character Encyclopedia. So if you like character encyclopedias and you're confused as to who's who in the High Republic, make sure you look for DK's The High Republic Character Encyclopedia for the High Republic. Burayaga and Yoda take a field trip to Geonosis in the pages of Jedi Brave in every way. So if you have younglings at home, make sure you look for that on shelves at some point in the future as well. And they'll teach you a thing or two about courage. How sweet. All right, and that is all the Star Wars news we have for you today. It looks like we went over by a little bit, so sorry to break the promise on 15 minutes or less, but hopes you enjoyed the show, and hopefully you guys have been familiar enough with Star Wars Escape Pod that you know all the ways to reach us in the description below using the handle at SW Escape Podcast. And we'd love to hear your feedback, and follow the socials, follow the Twitter account, so you can answer polls like whether or not Ahsoka was the best or the second or the third best Star Wars show. Majority voted second best, by the way, and lots more where that came from. So go follow us on Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, and so many other things. Look for those links in the description below, and we will see you in the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod. May the Force be with you.